I'm going to show you how I installed a fuel shutoff valve on my Predator Super Quiet Inverter 2000 from Harbor Freight. So as you can see, I've already removed the formed fuel line hose from the gas tank. Then it goes back into what you see there, that block, and then the hose comes out and then to the carburetor. You can see right there in the center, that hose goes to the carburetor. And then this goes to the switch. And I did see something on YouTube where somebody said if you turn it off or pull it part way that it would shut off the fuel. I've tried different things and I couldn't get it to work, so I'm not sure that that's a feature. So what I'm going to do is just use a needle nose plier, get back in here and remove that clamp just like that, and then off camera I'll remove that hose. Here you see the hose off both of the nipples here and back here. Now this is how this formed hose would go back in. Just like that. It would go in like this. And for better reference, the angle that is the tightest goes into the tank. You'll notice how tight of a 90 that is. And this is more of a swooping, a nice smooth 90. So the tight 90 is what goes up into the tank. And then I bought this fuel line at a local supply place for auto parts. It's 1/4 inch inside diameter by 3/8 outside, and it's 2 foot long. Now the reason I'm using this type of line is obviously it is made for fuel, and it's much more flexible than if you were to get regular fuel line, which is more rigid and harder to work with in a tight confined space. And it also came with line, fuel filter, and then 4 clamps. So this is the fuel valve that I bought off Amazon. And one other thing, guys, if for some reason you had to do maintenance on this, say the valve went bad, you can use, I've got several different types of hose, clamps, shutoffs. You could use something like this, put it on the hose that's coming from the fuel tank, and pinch it off, and then pull that off, and you won't have a bunch of fuel coming out of that hose. And again, this is but one design. This is more compact, and it'll pinch off any hose line, and without doing it any damage, because you can see that it's curved surfaces here. And here you see it in use. So being that this is bigger, I had to take a heat gun and heat this up so that it would fit on the nipple of the fuel tank. And then I just cut a short piece. You can see where it goes down, and then right here, just short enough to where it goes back in here like that, and then wrap it up, and then it goes into the fuel valve. This is in the off position. When you flip this like this, it's now on when it's in line. And then back here, I just cut a short piece that goes from the valve into the fitting back there that I showed earlier. And then if you're gonna go to longer term storage, you can pull the back off and then just shut this thing off, let it run its way out of fuel. If you've got it on eco, it takes a little bit of time, and then once it's ran out of fuel, it shuts off on its own. And what we're going to do is I'm going to fire this up, and I'm going to shut it off, And then we're going to go down here to the drain on the bowl and see if we can get any more out of that, because that spring there, right there, that you see on that screw, that's actually where you can open that up and then drain the gas out of that bowl. So it's opened up right now. I'm going to fire it up, shut it off, and then we'll do that test. So I actually decided to time this, and on eco mode, when I shut that valve off, it ran for another 3 minutes and 44 seconds before the fuel was depleted. So now what I'm going to do is loosen up that bolt on the bottom of the bowl, and take a look here. We're going to see if any fuel comes out. I want to see how good did that actually drain. And actually there's still some in that bowl. That's quite interesting. So now let's try the following. I'm going to go ahead, open up the valve. Once I close the valve in the bottom of the bowl, I'm going to open up the fuel valve I put in, fire it up, and shut it off. Just shut it off the normal way and leave the valve on. Then we're going to open up that bowl and see if there's even more coming out. Alright, so let me shut it off with the switch on the generator. So I used the conventional way, the way that the generator, just turned the switch off. Now, let me go over here and open up the valve, or that bolt again, that screw. And you can see a lot more is coming out. A lot more. So what I'm thinking, so what I'm thinking is, by using this shutoff valve that I did put in, it's probably draining the majority of that bowl. And here's that bolt that I was talking about right there. It's got a spring on it to keep it from getting loose, to keep tension on it. So I'm thinking that this test, what it proves is there's a lot more in that bowl, because that's kind of a deep bowl in the bottom of that carb. And so by actually shutting it off, though, what you're doing is taking the majority out of there. And I don't want to take this apart, take that bowl out. There'd be a lot more work involved. But the thought is you're taking out the majority of that fuel that's sitting in that bowl, and hopefully below the float and everything. So, but that's what I'm going to do. And if there was anything long-term storage, then I would open up that little bolt on here. But actually, just like they tell you, I fired this thing up the minimum. I mean, I'll be using it, but if it's going to be a little longer, I'll fire it up at least once every 2 weeks and let it run. And I am using exclusively non-ethanol gas in all my small engines.